to help man understand his divine nature. Man has finally arrived at a full enough awareness of who he is that he is capable of resuming his original relationship with God and accept God's presence in him. So God sent Jesus Christ to exemplify all of the difficult phases that man has passed through, all the trials and temptations, but without experiencing any of man's limitations or dual thinking. Jesus Christ is the way shower. He was a real human being with a full-blown divine consciousness. He was fully aware of the I amness of his being. He was born and lived and died to show us how to reestablish our original status as perfect man in divine mind. That is, reestablish the status in the individual mind as divine mind never lost it. You see, you must be able to acknowledge your own I amness before the supreme I am can meet you reciprocally. God wants you, so she gave you Jesus. Isn't that a wonderful lesson in giving what you most desire to receive? Jazz paused. I jumped in, bubbling over with thoughts and ideas and questions. How did God get what she desired by giving us Jesus? God desires you to be open and capable of receiving her. But he can only give where and when and what a person is capable of receiving at the level of their awareness. God is creator. That is its nature. It creates through and with love. That is the only way she can create because she is all love. When people aren't open to receiving the love of God, it remains unreceived. When you are open to receiving the loving, giving nature of God, you will be love and joy as a part of God. In this way, you give back to God that which it has given you. In order to aid you to open to your divine nature, God gave you Jesus Christ to show you how. And Jesus was a most superb gift from God, don't you think? She grinned at my wide, unblinking eyes. Holy moly. No, there's an expression out of my youth. I've never heard it like that before. That's the most beautiful version of the birth of Jesus that I've ever heard. I still felt like I was drowning in holy mollies. So, I mulled, taking a deep breath. God created the perfect man and woman in Adam and Eve, who basically blew it in the choice department. And then through thousands of years of evolution, we have finally arrived back where we began. And once again, we recognize that we have a choice. This time to awaken to our potential as divine beings. Have I got it so far? Indeed you have. Jazz now continued my synopsis. Tiny tinsel bows added brilliance to the stars of her angel dress. Jesus is an individual expression of that perfection, just as everyone is. The only difference is he was more attuned to his Christness than most people. He's a shining example, but not the only example. He is, however, considered to be the most evolved human being who has ever lived, according to your mystics. Therefore, Christmas is a celebration of the Christ in man, and Jesus is the prime representative. So, I mused, Christmas represents the birth of Christ in man, or man becoming conscious of giving birth to the idea of his own divinity. It's a wake-up call to remind us of our true identity. I was beginning to feel a warm tingling just under my breastbone. But what about all the gifts, and what's the idea behind people giving to each other? How does that fit into this concept? Humankind's Christness, its divinity, is God's gift. Not only in the form of Jesus, the God-man, but as inherent in each individual. Humans are created in the mind of God, and as such are perfect, although they have forgotten both creation and their perfection. This perfection is another of God's gifts, and every gift you give and every one you receive is representative of the giving nature of God and the God nature of you. Whether it's trimming a tree for your mother-in-law's enjoyment, making a meal to share with others, or knitting an afghan for your aunt. Whether it's the gift of compassion for your father, a shining thought of admiration for the ability of a 91-year-old to win at card games, or sharing the contentment you feel in your husband's presence. The wonder that is your true nature is flowing out of you to others, and the beauty of others flows to you through the gifts of who they are. Even when you forget their significance, as you often do in the hustle and bustle of the season, rest assured that God doesn't forget and is always waiting for you, will wait for you throughout eternity, if necessary. I was feeling decidedly better, and I listened quietly as she continued. What is the reason for the season, you asked? Her face lit up in a smile of such sheer delight that I felt my own brain forming in response. You are the reason for the season. Christmas is in celebration of the Christ in you. I basked in warm gratification as I heard her final words and watched as she slowly rose from her tree limb, gathered up the folds of her tinsel-bejeweled gown in one hand, and nimbly climbed back to the top of the tree. Perhaps it was merely my imagination, perhaps the product of a mind lulled by contentment, but for one startled moment, I thought I detected hand-tooled leather boots peeking out from under her star-speckled gown. I know I heard her chuckle as she dropped the hem back into place with a tiny swish, turned, and blew me a kiss.